What if the answer to never being hurt is in armor, avoidance, or denial? What if the very pain you fear is trying to teach you something essential? You thought healing meant feeling nothing, that if you meditated, forgave, endured, the world could never wound you again. But what if that promise of invulnerability was never the point? Carl Jung said, "Nothing and nobody will hurt you if you do not hurt yourself through them." But what does that truly mean? Can we ever stop hurting ourselves? And is it even desirable? Pain is one of the oldest teachers humanity has known, yet today we try to erase it. Scroll, swipe, distract, numb the ache, silence the signal. But when we suppress pain, we silence something essential in ourselves. Socrates once said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Jung centuries later offered the next step. The examined pain is what makes life worth living. What if the very wounds we avoid are the doorway to wholeness? Jung's psyche was a vast, unfolding landscape, a terrain both luminous and shadowed. At its heart lies the shadow, not merely anger, envy, or fear, but the hidden parts of ourselves that we buried to survive. The child who learned to silence tears, believing sorrow was weakness, the adolescent who performed endlessly, craving recognition and fearing invisibility, the adult who confuses numbness for peace, thinking detachment is safety. We cry, "They hurt me," as though pain comes solely from the outside. But Jung would ask, who handed them the script to wound us? Our unhealed stories echo across time and space, reverberating in our choices, relationships, and longings. Our unintegrated wounds shape reactions we think are instinct, dictate fears we call reality, and whisper narratives we accept as truth. And yet if our inner pain is also a teacher, patient, stern, and persistent, it does not demand avoidance. It asks instead, can we sit with it? Can we listen to its story? Can we learn from the ache rather than flee from it? For in that confrontation, in that deliberate encounter, the shadow begins to speak, not as a threat, but as a guide toward wholeness. Centuries before Jung, the Stoics posed a question that still echoes through time. If someone insults you, does the pain dwell in their words, or in the grip you have on your own image? Epictetus explained, it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. The insult, the betrayal, the sting, these are not forces outside us. They are invitations to examine the fortress we've built around our self-image. Socrates took this insight further. Even when sentenced to death, he calmly drank the hemlock. Why? Because his soul rested in alignment with its own truth. Words, threats, and poisons could touch his body, but not his essence, not invincible, but untouchable. Does this imply that we can never be hurt? Not at all. Pain is inevitable. Life will find a way to bruise, disappoint, and unsettle us. But here lies the Stoic gift. We can see pain differently, not as a wall that hardens us into isolation, nor a storm to escape. Pain can be a mirror reflecting the corners of ourselves we ignore, the vulnerabilities we deny, the attachments that silently govern our lives. When approached with awareness, suffering becomes a guide, a softening, not a breaking. It whispers, here lies your fear, here lies your story, here lies the part of you ready to awaken. Modern neuroscience reveals a startling truth. Social rejection activates the same neural pathways as physical injury. The hurt is real, the wound pulses. It is registered in the body, remembered by the mind, felt in the very fibers of our being. Yet here lies the paradox. While we cannot always control the blow, we can choose the meaning we assign to it. Jung's path was never about numbing or escaping pain. It was about integration. To meet the ache not with avoidance, but with attention, to name it, to converse with it, as one might with a wounded child or a shy ghost within. This part of me aches because it longs to belong. This wound reopens because it still craves my care. Individuation, Jung's vision of the self, is not a pursuit of perfection. It is the slow, courageous work of becoming whole, allowing every fracture, every shadow, every scar to settle into the mosaic of consciousness. It is a life unarmored yet unbroken, awake to the pain, awake to the beauty, awake to ourselves. So if invulnerability is a myth, what is the real promise? You cannot avoid love, loss, risk, hope, vulnerability. To live is to feel, deeply, persistently, sometimes unbearably. But here's the shift. Conscious awareness changes the rules. Pain becomes a guest, not the architect. It informs you without defining you. You don't stop feeling. You stop fearing what you feel. So, can we truly become free from hurt? Jung's insight suggests a radical answer. Nothing and nobody will hurt you if you do not hurt yourself through them. This isn't blame, it's liberation. Others cannot dictate your worth. Betrayal cannot break you unless you hand it the key. Freedom begins when you refuse to internalize what isn't yours. You don't become invincible, you become free. Pain will visit always, but you can learn to meet it with awareness. Feel deeply. Question honestly. Open anyway. Become a soul that aches and blooms, a self that remembers. Breaking is not failing. Jung left us more than theory. He left a map. Path not to escape suffering, but to navigate it with eyes wide open. Watch more from The Big Questions, where philosophy meets life. Your life isn't about avoiding pain. It's about learning to live with it fully.